Good evening and welcome to the 12th edition of the Bronx Bomber Blog Podcast. I'm Steven Erickson, joined by James Grande. We have a lot to discuss today leading up to the game, including but not limited to the news of Nathan Eovaldi's injury, having him out for the 2017 season, the way the team has played lately with the infusement of youth, and of course, Alex Rodriguez's retirement last week. And with that, I'll pass it off to James. James, you have any thoughts on A-Rod?
Well, there are I have plenty of thoughts running through my mind, but first I just want to thank Alex for everything that he did for the organization, good and bad, because we can't leave the bad out. But I mean, his 2009 postseason is legendary in Yankee era. I mean, he carried us to the World Series where Matsui took over, but the way that the situation was handled is a bit of a peculiar one because I've been a documented Joe Girardi believer, and I don't think that Joe was right. With what Alex has done for the franchise, and he came out and flat out said he's going to play Alex every day. If you say that, you cannot go back on your word. You cannot. And that's just – you said it on national television. It's not like you said it to Alex behind the scenes where none of us heard it, We all heard it. We all heard you say if Alex wants to play every day, he will play every day. If that's not word for word what he said, then it was close to it, And that's not right. He's one of the two best – he has the most talent I've ever seen on a baseball field other than maybe Barry Bonds. And that's with steroids, without. And with what he's done for the game, obviously I've already mentioned about the steroids. The send-off was wrong. And that's from an organizational standpoint as well. I don't think the Yankees handled it. I agree that he should be in some type of teaching environment. He is a savant, he's a baseball savant. And right. But I think that should have been handled either at the end of the season or somewhere down the line. I don't think it's right it was a joke, man. You give him a 5-day span where it's just like, oh, we're gonna release you, but not quite.
Yeah, I'll definitely concur with that for the most part. I thought Joe Girardi reneging on his promise to play A-Rod was completely disgraceful. I'll start by saying I was at the game last Sunday, and it was actually right a couple hours after A-Rod had hosted that forced retirement press conference. And I was very disappointed to not see him play because, the guy has – at that point, it was 5 games left in his Yankee career. The least you could do is play him. There were points you could have pinch hit him from McCann, who was DHing. It was just – it was handled as you said, it was handled very poorly from an organizational standpoint. And I think the Yankees also missed out on a huge marketing opportunity. If you look down to the countdown to 700, I think they made a mistake last year because they didn't think he'd be as popular with the fans as he was when he was chasing 660 and obviously subsequently passed it. I think that what the Yankees should have done is if they didn't see him here next year and they didn't see him having the talent, they could have at least kept him on the roster and then had him retire at the end of the year. September 1st, the rosters expand. You would have only had to deal with him for a couple weeks anyway. Obviously, his presence as a mentor is invaluable amongst the younger players, especially the younger Latin players who really feel a connection to him for obvious reasons. I just wish the Yankees would have handled it better. That being said, his send-off was great. I thought it was amazing, and I almost shed a tear, not going to lie. But the Yankees could have handled it better overall, unfortunately. But I'm happy that it's out of the way because it was a distraction, as is everything with A-Rod. Regardless of what the circumstances are, the news is always about A-Rod. That's why I was surprised to hear his it was a spokesperson for Alex Rodriguez say yesterday he basically crushed any rumors of him playing for the Marlins this year, saying A-Rod will not play for the rest of the season. Although he didn't rule out 2017, which is something that we should definitely keep an eye on moving forward, especially when we look at the arrangement that the Yankees and A-Rod have with him being a special advisor to Hal Steinbrenner moving forward.
That makes me, I guess how we see it play out ends up seeing how much A-Rod values being Yankee, or if he really wants to chase number 700, Like, if he comes back, did he care more about the record ultimately, or does he, because he loves being Yankee, but I think if he comes back, it's not a shot in the face to the Yankees, but ultimately he wanted to keep playing just for a number.
Well, I think they should have let him get to 700. People will say, they don't want him to the bonus. There is no bonus for 700. Yep. There's a bonus every time he passes somebody. So there would be a bonus if he got to 715, which he was not getting to 715 this year. That was just not happening. So there was just no logical reason for it. I thought they embarrassed him. Again, I'm not a fan of Joe Girardi. I wrote a piece on this. I think he did irreparable harm to his reputation amongst the players in the locker room because A-Rod was very popular. He remains a very popular force amongst his teammates. And I don't like Joe Girardi. You saw him fake the tears. He should get an Oscar for that, to be honest. Just handled very poorly. That's all I could say without, throwing some expletives out there.
Just one more point on A-Rod, just how polarizing he is, and I guess how, I guess in a way, it was poetic, but I went to Fenway last week, and it was the first game of that series, and actually some drunk guy in my section was the one who started the "We Want A-Rod" chant, and however many fans were in Fenway that night, Yankees, Red Sox were chanting "We Want A-Rod," every single one, and at that point, I understand the rally, ninth inning, whatever, but the chants were starting in the sixth inning. You had a chance to get him in, and they wanted to boo him. They got their chance that last game, but out of all the stuff that has gone on between the two teams with A-Rod in the middle of their controversy, how amazing would it have been if he came up in a situation and helped your team produce, kind of like he did in his final game with the double.
Yeah, he did in the game that he pinch hit in Boston. I think it was it was game 2. He moved the runner over and set up a Yankee rally.
And game 3 was the RBI.
Yeah.
So let's just say he couldn't do something productive game 1.
I think he still has something left in the tank. Obviously, he's not going to do what he did last year, which was absolutely phenomenal considering the circumstances. Yeah. But I think A-Rod definitely has something left in the tank if he was given consistent playing time. Obviously, I think the last game he started for a while, he went 0 for 4 in Tampa Bay a couple weekends ago with 4 strikeouts. Obviously, if you don't play him for 3 weeks, for parts of 3 weeks, most of 3 weeks, and then you just throw him out there, of course he's going to struggle. Most players would. It wasn't a logical. It wasn't. They didn't handle it in a logical manner, and that sort of confused me.
Agreed, man. Couldn't agree more.
So I guess with this, we have to, considering it's the news of the day, transition into Nathan Eovaldi and what his injury means. I'm not sure if you saw this yet, James, if you read into it. I'm not sure what the injury is. I didn't really see that. If you want to speak on that would be good.
Well, I did not either, but the fact that he's missing until 2017 leads me to believe, just like he did in high school, he had Tommy John.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. He has a torn flexor tendon and partially torn UCL.
Okay, so there you go. So he's already had Tommy John in high school. He's going to have 2 surgeries, is what I believe, right? Is it 2 separate? So is it 2?
It's two separate
surgeries. So, I mean, the guy, for someone who throws 100 miles an hour. If this doesn't go right, they're targeting 2017. Who's to say he's not done for his career? I mean, we've seen players come back from 2 surgeries, 2 Tommy John surgeries before, but I mean, no one's who can throw 100 miles an hour and then throws a splitter, which obviously we've seen with Tanaka, we've seen with other people who throw splitters. how much tension it puts on your arm, and he throws it at 90 miles. He throws as fast as CC throws his fastball. So, I mean, people are saying, oh, don't, not that he's this big piece that people are looking forward to coming back, but who's to say he's gonna pitch like effectively, quote, because he doesn't really pitch effectively without it, but who's gonna say he's even gonna come back from that?
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking along the same lines as you. Obviously, I'm sympathetic towards him because of what this may mean for his career. But again, I'm not a fan of Nathan Eovaldi. I never was. I never drank the Kool-Aid. I think he's a mediocre pitcher. There's a reason 2 other teams gave up on him. There's a reason the Marlins traded him to us. I said at the beginning this was an awful trade. I thought Martin Prado is a tremendous player who does everything. He has the clutch gene that has seemed to evade our team for the last 3 or so years. I thought losing him was bad. If we still kept Prado, we wouldn't have signed Headley. That would have gotten us out of that mess. Phelps has actually turned out to be a decent pitcher who, he could have been useful to us in a number of ways. I thought it was a reckless trade by Brian Cashman, and obviously it hasn't paid off. Eovaldi's shown signs of brilliance at times, but, similar to Michael Pineda, he just can't figure it out. I actually think we should part ways with both of them this offseason, which is sort of tough to do when considering that there's really no starting pitching out there. I was listening to the Michael Kay show briefly, and he suggested that the Yankees may have to re-sign Ivan Nova.
I heard the same thing.
He's the best pitcher on the market, which is scary. Yeah, and I would not want Nova back either because Nova's awful.
Yep. And to touch on Martin Prado, leads the NL. He's tied for the lead with 144 hits, and he's hitting 324 on the year.
Yep, awful trade. I said it at the time. A lot of the guys at the BBB disagreed with me. They thought Eovaldi would turn out to be something good. I said, nope. Prado proved that he could play in New York. He had a number of big hits during his half a year here.
Yeah.
And he'd be a perfect fit. I'd love to have him. They tried to get him back last year at the deadline, I believe, as well, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, you're right. Now I remember writing an article about I would say during the offseason, and Brian Cashman has been doing that thing where he goes after these highly touted prospects and that haven't been performing. A la Aaron Hicks this year was that example. Hicks Hicks was drafted, I believe, high in the draft when he came out. And he did it with Mike. He went for Michael Pineda after Pineda suffered through some injuries. He did it. There's a number of guys. Didi, he just did it with Didi. Didi was. A lot of people have given up on him, and he's everybody's man crush now. And now that Aaron Judge has probably surpassed him, even though it's only been 3 games. But I mean, he tried it with Eovaldi; it didn't work out. So, like you said, I'm sympathetic towards the guy. I'm not. I pitched in high school. I can't imagine going through Tommy John once, let alone twice. The guy, he's missing full season after full season multiple times. And I just don't see a scenario where he comes back to the Yankees and 2017, if he comes back 2017, I mean, that's relatively quick for, I guess, the injury. I mean, I don't say he has to rehab further. Say he doesn't make it to 2018. 2018, the pitching market that's where the Yankees are going. And by that time, Tanaka may or may not be here if he opts to stay. But
depends on his health as well.
Yeah, it depends on the health, depends on his the contract, because I know he has to opt out after 4 years. I doubt he opts out because he won't get that. But then again, you don't know. Depending on next year, he's been good. So
yeah.
But other than that, Caprillion gets over the hump of the injuries. He was always someone slated to be a fast track to, the MLB. Severino, Chad Green, you don't know. And if the Yankees land 1 or 2 big names, a la Jose Fernandez, there's not going to be a spot for Eovaldi. Now, where I could see him succeeding is like a late inning role because he throws 2 pitches.
I always thought that as well too.
If you throw 100 and you have a second pitch, middle relief setup. That's been the bread and butter. Look at everyone across baseball. Nobody lasts. No pitcher these days lasts throwing 100 miles an hour. You fade. You'll get 6, 7. If your arm doesn't blow up by then, 6, 7, 8 good years. A la CC Sabathia. Maybe a little longer, but your skills diminish and you don't know how to pitch anymore.
Yeah, if you look at Eovaldi's numbers as well, they're significantly better his first time through the order than the third time. It gets progressively worse as he faces them more. So I think seeing him in the bullpen, that would have been a good idea. Obviously, he was there for a bit. He was demoted to the bullpen where he exceeded and was subsequently promoted back to the rotation. I personally would have left him there because I think that role suits his makeup better than being a starter. Unfortunately, the Yankees disagreed, and they're now paying the consequences for it. I think that this is the end of his Yankee career, though. I'd be surprised to see him pitch in a Yankee uniform again.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, just to touch on that, I don't think the Yankees really had much of a choice to put him back in at the time because Severino has been – I mean, it's been bad, and the Yankees obviously weren't expecting that. And even Chad Green had – after his one start in San Diego, he was nothing. He was grooving fastballs down the middle, left and right, grooving pitches down the middle. So, I mean, who do you turn to? I mean, you had options like Luis Sessa, but then again, it didn't seem like the Yankees had stretched him out enough to be a starter. So you ultimately put Eovaldi back in the rotation, and I agree with you that he's gone, but at the time, I think it had to be done.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a bigger organizational problem where we have a problem with when it comes to starting pitching depth or lack thereof. The Yankees are in trouble because they got obviously Dylan Tate from Texas. He's I think in Class A. Justice Sheffield's also he has some potential. Caprillion, as you mentioned, but aside from that, they really don't have much. And this is in response to also one of the Twitter questions that we received from Luke Lyons at City Tank asking, if we envision any of the Yankees that are currently in the rotation to be there in 2017. And obviously I think barring injuries, we're going to see Tanaka, Sabathia, Pineda, and then after that is a lot of question marks. I think because the Yankees have the pieces now to get a starting pitcher, they might be forced to do that. I think they should because that rotation doesn't sound very scary. It just sounds mediocre just thinking about it now. Obviously, we'll see what Green turns into. Sessa's going to get his shot later on in the week. Maybe Severino could rebound. Maybe it'll be somebody else. Who knows? But that's definitely the weakest part of this team moving forward. Another thing the Yankees, even though he's performed extraordinarily well since being reacquired, I would consider moving Adam Warren back into the rotation. Maybe not now, but next year, especially if they re-sign Aroldis Chapman, which I have a feeling that they're going to bring him back because it would make all the sense in the world. I loved Dylan Betances, but I don't want him closing out games because it's a heart attack every single time. Last night
David Robertson 2.0.
Yeah, last night being the most prominent example of that. But it'll be interesting moving forward. I guess we should, to all this talk about the offseason might be a little bit premature, but I guess we should transition into what we're seeing on the field now from the Yankees with, this new youth movement that has really, they've been performing better since the deadline, which is very interesting.
I mean, it's funny because you would expect, like the young guys, not all the time, because a lot of young people do have success. But I mean, you're in the biggest market in baseball, and you're calling up these guys. And I mean, first off, let's just talk about that one home run Aaron Judge hit. That was wow. I've never seen someone, dude. He almost hit it into the camera well, which is people don't even hit it over the regular fence in center field. I was just thinking about it. Other than Starlin's 2 home runs, Brad Miller might have went yards to center field, and then Judge, like, people don't go deep to center field. It was old stadium. That was at
A-Rod
the
used
old
to do that
stadium.
a lot.
Yeah, A-Rod. Yeah, but it was, that's like, that's grown man power right there.
Yeah.
And like when you see someone do it, that's someone who's, is going to hit a lot of home runs. And I mean, the fact that they're doing this and we're getting better, like the Yankees are getting younger, and right now the movement is the timeline is being accelerated, which is awesome because since the trade deadline we've heard nothing 2018, 2019, but with the emergence of Aaron Judge, Tyler Austin, and Chad Green's wonderful start last night, Gary Sanchez. I mean, we have a core that has come up from the minors that, I mean, who's to say we're not going to make the playoffs this year? I'm not saying we are.
Not enough pitching. Not enough starting pitching.
And I agree. But there is no pressure on these kids right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I think it could help them down the stretch. There is enormous pressure on Boston, who just made David Price one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball. There is enormous pressure on Baltimore to get it done, if not this year, next year, because Manny Machado, you're not going to afford him. He's gone in 2 years from now. There's no pressure on the Yankees and their young kids. And it is so exciting. It's refreshing because earlier in the year, I was whatever hair I have left, I was ripping out of my head watching this team play. Yeah. And it's just refreshing, man.
Yeah, can we also talk about the lineup? Why is Headley second? I mean, and Hicks was second. This is why I don't like Joe Girardi, because he has an unwavering – I mean, obviously to everybody except A-Rod, he has an unwavering loyalty to these veteran players who just don't produce to the level that they should be producing to. Whereas, if you look at – let's look at tonight's lineup. Ellsbury, Headley, Didi, Teixeira, Castro, McCann. We'll talk about McCann a little bit later. Sanchez, Judge, and Hicks. Okay. Let's look at this from a logical standpoint. Didi's one of your best hitters. Didi should be hitting second right behind Ellsbury.
Just like Jeter.
Yes. Judge should be hitting third. I'm fine with Teixeira. I'm fine with the rest of it, honestly. And I think Headley should swap, put Didi second, Judge third, and Headley eighth. And I think that would make a lot more sense moving forward.
Well, yeah, moving forward, but I also think
tonight it should be done. It should have been done yesterday.
Now, I'm okay with that. I really am. But I'm also okay with leaving him down for a few weeks, maybe just a week, whatever. Let him get his feet wet. They're going to start throwing him less fastballs. He's going to start seeing a lot more junk. And, he's had his thing why he wasn't called up last year or played last year was because he struck out a lot. So we're going to start seeing him strike out. And I'm okay with that. The way baseball has become, I'm okay with the strikeout. It happens. You're going to get people in the middle of the order who are going to hit a lot of home runs, but they're going to strike out. But I'm okay with leaving him down at the bottom of the order for, just let him keep, there's no pressure hitting eighth. He has you hit him third and all of a sudden, it's like, holy crap, I'm batting third for the New York Yankees. And I've played 4 games. I've played 4 professional. This is my 4th professional game. So I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it because I would. I want him to get as many every time he's come up to plate. I've reached for my girlfriend and I've I've shaken her rapidly. You got to watch, you got to watch the TV. It's must see TV. Which is, you want to have them at the top of the order, but at the same time, I'm okay. It's only 4. This is only game 4. We're gonna see Aaron Judge a lot.
I mean, I might be, a little premature with what I might be, making that assessment a bit prematurely, but I don't think there's any reason for Headley to be batting third. Even if you want to do Castro third, Didi second, move Headley down, there's no reason. He's basically he's a walking double play. He's a rally killer. I mean, Ellsbury doesn't get on base much, so that might not be a problem. But it doesn't make any sense to me. And then Hicks finally starts hitting. He's actually hit very well
Yeah,
as of
he
late.
has.
I'll
He
give him
has.
that. And then you have him batting ninth.
And Starling's been really good lately.
Yeah, I think the offense is really starting to click. And I guess that'll bring me to the next point is what in the world are we going to do with Brian McCann? I wrote about this about a week ago regarding whether or not the Yankees should try and trade him before, I believe August 31st is the
Yep.
waiver trade deadline. Yes,
August
before
31st.
August 31st. And the Braves obviously they're interested, which I thought is interesting because they're going nowhere anytime soon, and that's a significant contractual commitment to a veteran. But I guess they want his presence for the younger players. Obviously, he's from there. He's from Georgia. He played for the Braves for the majority of his career. I think that would be an interesting fit, and the Yankees need to get rid of him.
Well, I agree because Gary Sanchez needs to start every day from here on out.
And he has been playing every day, whether it be in DH or catcher capacity. So I'll give the organization props for doing that.
No, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm sure there's still that, like, Sanchez still has that feeling like McCann's over his shoulder, and I'm not saying in a bad way because McCann is someone who everyone loves. And that's been very apparent since day one. Everyone loves working with the guy. Everyone loves him in the clubhouse, but he's a multiple time All-Star. You're not gonna who's making $80 million. It's Gary Sanchez. That's not going to be in his mind. That has to be something. So maybe he's going up, gripping the bat a little tight. I mean, we haven't seen signs of it, but who knows if Brian McCann's cleared out? Who knows the level that Gary Sanchez can take? Like what step he can take next? But I agree. As much as I love McCann, because I've been, I thought the first year and a half, maybe full 2 years, the shift really, really, really destroyed his career.
It still is.
And it still is, but it was when we originally acquired him, he was ripping the ball. And, it's unfortunate because there's no need. You have to shift against him because he doesn't hit the ball the other way. If he made a change in his career and he started hitting the ball the other way, there'd be room for him to DH, but there's not.
Yeah, I mean, and McCann's also still a more than serviceable catcher behind the plate, but Sanchez's arm is impressive. His ability to call a game thus far has also been quite extraordinary. So I think the Yankees should stick with him moving forward. But to build upon the point that you brought up with McCann, the shift really killing his career, I think you see that happen with a lot of Yankee players when they come to the Yankees, whether it be him, Curtis Granderson. There's a number of other examples. Swisher was one of them when he was up. It was just Teixeira. They just refuse to hit the other way. They get addicted to the short porch, and it's just they'll go from becoming a two. You've even seen it with Castro's averages went down significantly since he got here. That's not because of the shift. I don't know what we can attribute that to, but they'll just refuse to hit the other way, and they'll go from a borderline 300 hitter to somebody who can't break the 230s. And it's really mind-boggling. I mean, if you look at, I think Granderson's the most prominent example of this. Curtis Granderson. You see what he's doing for the Mets this year. It's like,
awful.
Wow.
Awful.
Oh my God.
Awful.
I'm so happy we got rid of him.
Me too.
I didn't want him back at all. I hated Granderson.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not a fan of McCann either.
I was always an Austin Jackson guy, so I never wanted the Yankees to trade Austin Jackson for Granderson in the first place. I'm granted Granderson hit 90 home runs or whatever it was in 2 years, 80 whatever, and that's cool. But I mean, at the time, that was when your boy Cashman was, he didn't care about the prospects. He really didn't. It was win now, win now, win now, and and McCann. Now you brought up an interesting point about the Braves. So via Bleacher Report, as of June 15th, so before the trading deadline, they ranked the Braves farm system number 1 in baseball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the Yankees, let's say, the Yankees, I'm sure would not have problem eating some of the salary. They paid it. If the Braves came up with a juicy offer and the kicker was to pay the salary, you got to do it. You pay every last penny of that salary, and it comes off. What is he? He signed for next year. Next year, right? Is his last year?
No, he has 2 more years, McKen.
2 more years. So,
and when I was researching that piece that I wrote, he also has a very interesting clause that could make it 3 years, depending on the amount of games that he catches and whether or not he ends up on the disabled list in 2018. He also could have a vesting option for 2019.
Well, barring an answer from Gary Sanchez, he's not catching more than. If he's on the team, he ain't catching more than 20
depending on
games.
where he goes. If they were to trade him, obviously
okay.
that contract would be on the hands of the team that he was traded to.
Okay. Well, 7 out of 10 of Atlanta's top 10 prospects are pitchers.
I don't know if they'd give back a top prospect for McCann, though. I do, like you said, if they offered us a very good prospect for McCann, I'd pay it all. But if they didn't offer us anything and offered to take the salary, I'd do that as well.
Yeah,
to be honest, I just want to get rid of him at this point.
No, I agree. I'm in agreement, and I wasn't because I also wanted to see what I've watched a little Gary Sanchez in the minors, but I wasn't totally I was on the fence. I wanted last year. I wanted them to include him in a deal for Tyson Ross because we need a starter. Tyson Ross under contract for 1 million years, and he throws ground balls, nothing but ground balls, and that's someone. But now that I've seen Sanchez, oh my God, you have to. He has one of the fastest release I've seen in recent memory. Honestly, who comes to mind when you think of fast release? Yadier Molina, Benji Molina, Jose Molina, the Molina clan. And he's right there, man. I'm not saying he's them, but in terms of the way that he gets rid of the ball, how fast he gets rid of the ball, he's a star, and he hits. Yeah. He's a star. You get rid of McCann.
I was at the game. I'm looking at my calendar because I don't remember which Friday it was. It was the Friday before this Friday, so the 5th. Yeah. August 5th.
Friday before this Friday.
Before the Friday that just passed.
Next Friday, Ice Cube.
He nailed 2 guys within the first 3 or 4 innings of the game. And just see how quick he got rid of the ball. And both of them were dead on arrival. It was just crazy to watch. Obviously, McCann's very good behind the plate as well, but Sanchez he's a whole other animal. And I'm really excited to see him take on as he's flourished thus far. If you think about it, going into next season, the Yankees could realistically, their whole every position player could be 26 or under, with the exception of Ellsbury and Headley
and Gardner. Well, if they should Gardner,
I think Gardner's gone.
Yeah,
I think he's gone this offseason.
Which means Clint Frazier era, huh?
I think Gardner's gone. I think they should get rid of Headley as well, but I don't know anybody who would want him. Those are the 3 guys I would target for getting rid of, whether it be the rest of the month or heading into the offseason. I think Headley, Gardner, and McCann, all 3 of them don't really have places on this team moving forward.
And if you get rid of
Ellsbury as well, I'd love to get rid of, but that won't happen.
He's locked in. Unfortunately,
I'd rather keep Gardner personally because I think they're the same player.
Wow, we've turned over a new leaf here about Brett Gardner, or is it that
I don't like either
for Ellsbury? I
just hate it. I don't hate the strong word. I just don't like either of them as players. I think they're not what they should be. They're not performing to their full abilities. And Gardner, I think we should have traded him last year when he was an all-star. We should have sold high on him because I knew that was a fluke, as has been evidenced by his performance the last, season and a half. Unfortunately,
dude, even this offseason when the Yankees were in discussion with the Mariners about James Paxton, we should have made sure that happened. We need once CeCe's gone, we don't have a lefty in our rotation. And Paxton's been lights out recently. I think he just went through a month where he had it was like a low 2 ERA or something like that, and he got hit by a line drive, which kind of derailed. I think he missed a start or whatever. But we don't have pitching. We don't have major league talent pitching right now.
Yeah,
and someone like Brett Gardner, someone like Brian McCann, even Chase Headley could, depending on how desperate you are, can get you a starter, a 3, a 4, a 5. We just need someone behind Tanaka, because right now Tanaka's pitching like a frontline guy, not an ace, but I think he is pitching like a frontline guy. If you pair Tanaka with like Jose Fernandez a couple of years from now, then we're talking World Series.
Yeah, that's pure conjecture now.
I know. I'm just it's just because you could do, but like with those 3 guys you mentioned, like you can do things to bolster your team, and at the same time, then you have Clint Frazier coming in to play left field. You move Headley. You have maybe you move Ref Snyder to third. You have Austin at third. You have a bunch of guys who
there's a lot you could do.
There's options, and that's more and it's exciting because look at what all the young guys are doing for us now. Imagine more. Oh man.
Yeah. So on that note, before we conclude, I guess we should offer some predictions what we think is going to happen coming up for this team. Do you see them strongly competing? Do you see a fall off? Do you see the rookies continuing to perform at this high level, coming down to earth, or open it up?
I mean, I think, like I mentioned earlier, there is no pressure on any of them. Like maybe a little more like if we see Severino again in September, maybe a little on him because he's been bad, but and I wrote an article if you guys want to check it out. There's contributing factors to that, but I think the fact that there's no pressure and the fact that everyone was expecting the Mets to be the team from New York. And yeah, and they've
had a lot of injuries though. Everything that could have went wrong.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But every team has injuries.
Yeah, they're the only team that's worse than the Yankees.
Yeah,
it is great.
And and we sit here, and the Yankees have a better record today. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's going to fit because Cespedes is coming back, Asdrubal Cabrera is coming back. There's people coming back for the Mets, but the Yankees are in good shape, and I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm not saying they're not. Obviously, I want them to succeed. There's obviously there's Judge, Austin. These guys are going to go through dark times. No one's perfect. I mean, other than Mike Trout, who
Bryce Harper is perfect.
Yeah, yes, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout. I mean, look at Trout's rookie year. He missed a whole month this season, and he should have won the MVP, but that's for a whole nother discussion. But I mean, I think that they can contend for a wild card. The division, it's early. It's still August. You have a month and a half to go, and you're within striking distance. I believe it's 5.5, maybe 6.5, something along those lines out of the division. But the wild card, I mean, Boston, if their offense doesn't click, they don't have the pitching. Toronto, I picked Toronto to win the division, and I think they are going to do that. No one expected their pitching to be this good, and it's been awesome. But hey, if the Yankees take this series, I mean, the Yankees have beat good teams all year, and it's the teams like Tampa Bay that have held them back. Yeah. And there was a stretch. Where did we beat? We beat Cleveland, Houston, the Giants.
Should have swept them, actually.
Yeah, we beat and we lose, and then we get swept, and that's what ultimately, which I'm not mad about because the return we got, but that's what broke up this team. So I think they can contend? Yeah. Do I think a successful, like say, 85 wins? Like if this Yankees team gets 85 wins, it will almost trump the 85 win team of Lyle Overbay, Jason Nix, all those clowns.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the movement, because of the direction that we're trending. Like we won 85 games with them, but they were never coming back. If we win 85 games, and obviously they haven't been here the whole time, but if we continuously win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, stuff like that, I mean, who's like that is I will be completely satisfied even if they don't make the playoffs. But obviously, I would like to see that, even if they get in that one game, because you never know. Listen, Tanaka pitched well last year. The offense let him down in that one-game playoff. It happens. But you get in that game, anything's possible.
Yeah, I guess I'll just briefly share my opinion. Yesterday was the first day I looked at the standings since the deadline because I have no hope of this team doing anything this season. Not saying that's a bad thing. I think, they need a year like this. I think they're by far more exciting post-deadline than they were pre-deadline.
Oh, not a question.
Even without the deadly troika at the end of the bullpen, which was the only exciting part of this team.
Yeah.
But, interestingly, Tyler Clippard, Adam Warren, and Dellin Betances have been just as productive.
Just as good, man, with minus the strikeout.
Yeah, arguably even better if you look at the runs given up by because Chapman and Miller. I think Chapman blew a save or two already in Chicago. I know he definitely blew one.
Yeah.
Miller's first hitter, he gave up a home run, but in Cleveland. And Clippard and Warren combined have only given up one run.
I was going to say, I'm struggling to even remember that run.
Tyler Clippard gave up a home run. I heard it on the broadcast last night. I don't remember who it was, but Adam Warren's been perfect. He's been flawless since coming back to the Bronx, which is extremely encouraging. Well, now that we've discussed that, I think there's one question left, James, and that's, what does your hat say?
Make baseball fun again.
Okay.
Like,
right.
let's put pools in the outfield, where players have to dive over, and let's give a one special pinch hit per game. If we want to call in, if we're a bases loaded ninth inning and we're down 4 and Aaron Judge just batted last inning, we want Aaron Judge to bat. Let's give him a special at bat. There's ways to make baseball fun again.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we'll conclude. Hopefully the Yankees can make a statement and at least take 2 of 3 from Toronto. A sweep would be amazing. And on that note, from James and Steven, we wish you a good night. Go Yankees.
Go Yanks, baby.